Afternoon, guys. Friday afternoon, just before our Saturday busy day of open homes. And I want to do a quick video on my top 10 hardest fig cutting varieties to root, at least for Australian fig varieties. Now, I've set my microphone up again and I've had microphone issues in the past, so let's pray that this time this all works really well. I've set it up a little bit differently, so hopefully we won't get the horrible noises from the last video. I've got notes for once as well. I never take notes before these videos, but I wanted to make sure I got all of these in order. Now, before I start, some of these cuttings are still going to be in the tent, because even though they are harder cuttings to kind of root, some of them are still not 100% dead, so I didn't want to even bring them out for the small amount of time that it would take to put them on the table outside in the full sun, which is right in my eyes, by the way. I'd rather leave them in the tent and give them the best chance that we can. So without much further ado, let's see how we're going. And number 10 on the list, 10th hardest cutting to root in Australia, Violette de Sollies. Now, I don't have a cutting of that one on the table at the moment. I do have a live cutting in the tent, which has successfully rooted for me. And the reason that it's number 10 is I do actually have that cutting in the tent going happily and successfully. But before that, I had multiple cuttings of this variety fail. So I have 3 active cuttings going at the moment of Violette de Sollies that I've ordered from different sellers that I've wanted to kind of compare. Is the one that I have rooted the same as the same variety from a different seller? And all of those kind of cuttings that are still in the tent have not rooted yet, and it has been at least 5 or 6 weeks since they've been in there and they haven't done anything yet. Now, when I got the original Violette de Sollies, one of them failed, and the one that succeeded took a very long time to root. So number 10, Violette de Sollies, hardest to root in Australia. Number 9, Black Madeira. Now, if you've been watching my videos, you would have seen several months ago now, 4 or 5 months ago, I had a Black Madeira cutting in the tent that was doing really well and then suddenly died. Now, Black Madeira is a notoriously difficult cutting to root. It is known across the world as one of those ones that just is very problematic and causes a lot of issues. So the reason it's in number 9 on my list is I actually have 2 Black Madeira, which I purchased as a replacement for the one that failed, and both of them have taken off. One of them is doing exceptionally well, and one of them is getting by. It's okay, it's not great, it's not poor, it's just is. So number 9 on the list, Black Madeira. Number 8, Briogotto Nero, and I do have one of these on the table at the moment. Briogotto Nero. This is a cutting that I received 2 of, and it's been in the grow tent indoors, and both of them are indoors, and this is side by side by a number of great cuttings that have had no problems rooting at all. And both of these, although this one is not 100% dead, and I don't know if the camera can pick that up, this is a little bit desiccated from the top portion of this cutting, but maybe has some growth down kind of towards the soil. This cutting doesn't look like it's going to make it, but it still might. So number 8, we have this Briogotto Nero in the collection. Hopefully this will pull through, but it won't necessarily pull through, and we'll find that out over the next kind of couple of weeks. Number 7, this is a variety called French Palliard, and even though this cutting, if that can be seen, I don't know how well that's going to pick up, this cutting hasn't actually desiccated at all. It is still looks fairly moist and firm. However, I have about 4 of these cuttings going actively, and none of them have done anything in about 6 weeks. And so that makes me believe that compared to all the other cuttings that typically root out in that 21-day period, that this is a difficult variety to root. Now, I didn't want to put it further up the list, even though I have so many of them and not a single one has done anything, because this cutting is actually looking okay despite the amount of time that it's been in a pot and has done nothing. So I would like to think that this cutting is still going to pull through. Maybe it's just a little bit trickier than others, maybe it takes a little bit longer than others, but French Palliard, I have number 7 in the list of difficult cuttings to root. Number 6, I have two of these cuttings. This is Noir de Barbentane. Now, Noir de Barbentane is a cutting that I've had in the indoor grow tent. I have two of these cuttings, both inside, and both of them seem to be drying out to the point where I suspect this cutting is now dead. It isn't fully desiccated to the soil level, but having now rooted this year alone around 80 different cuttings, I can see that this is not one that is looking to crash hot, and I would not be surprised to see both of these cuttings fail. So I'll put this in number 6 as difficult cuttings to root. Number 5. This is a cutting that I received as a gift, as a part of a package that I received from one of the people I purchased off on eBay. This is a variety called Silvan Beauty. Now, Silvan Beauty I also have two cuttings of. Silvan Beauty, two of those cuttings, they're both inside the indoor grow tent, and they've been treated the same as all the successful cuttings, and both of these are now looking horribly desiccated. They're looking dry, they're looking dead. I think this cutting is 100% done, and I think the same for the other one that I still have inside. Silvan Beauty, I believe it's an Australian variety. I might be wrong, there might be Silvan Beauties overseas, but this particular cutting, at least for me, in both instances has failed, and failed quite quickly compared to some of the other ones. Number 5 on the list. This here is a variety called Fricazana Black. Now, Fricazana Black is number 4 on the list, and the reason it's number 4 is because I had 4 of these cuttings, and 3 of those cuttings totally and utterly failed. So I have one that's rooted out beautifully in the tent, but all the other ones are now dry, dead sticks, who once upon a time in a previous life were beautiful fresh cuttings, but now no longer are. Now, because I had so many of these, 4 is more cuttings than I would normally get of a particular variety, and 3 out of 4 have failed, I'm quite happy to put Ficazzana Black, which is a Maltese fig, in the 4th position of most difficult cuttings to root in Australia. Quickly following up the Maltese, the Ficazzana Black, we have another Maltese fig. This is called Malta Black. I also had 4 of these cuttings, and every single one of these appears to have failed. And I haven't been game enough to pull these out of the soil yet, because I have a very small, tiny little hope in the back of my mind that maybe these figs will somehow miraculously root out from the base. But I know that if I was to pull this out of the soil, most likely all the bark below the soil will have rotted off and showing the wood of the cutting. And I believe that this cutting has probably failed entirely, which is disappointing, because this is one that I was really looking forward to. 4 cuttings of this, 100% failure rate, and I don't know why, and I've always had trouble thinking in my mind why, when these figs are treated exactly the same and under the exact same conditions, that some will fail and some will succeed, and this is just one of those mysteries. Number 2 on the list, and one of my bugbears, one of the figs that I'm worried that I wanted more than any others and has just continually failed for me, Ronde de Bordeaux. Now, I don't have a Ronde de Bordeaux out here at the moment to look at. I haven't brought one out of the tent, because there is a very small chance, a minute chance, a tiny percentage of a chance that these figs will still pull through. The stems are still got a tiny bit of kind of size and color in the bottom of the cutting, but I suspect that they are 100% done. And the reason that this is in our number 2 position is because I started 3 Ronde de Bordeaux cuttings earlier in the year, and every single one failed. And then I reached out to a Facebook group in Australia to see if anyone out there had any more Ronde de Bordeaux cuttings, and I did find a gentleman who sent me a couple of those, and he has sent me out 4 cuttings, all of which seem to be failing again. So Ronde de Bordeaux is in number 2 of the most difficult cuttings in Australia. And number 1, most difficult cuttings, and the one that's caused me the most pain and grief in my life, the one that has caused me more stress than any other cutting that I've ever accumulated, because it is the most expensive cutting that I own. And I guess there's an old kind of joke that goes around that the most difficult cutting to root is the one that you spend the most money on. And I put a video up months ago now, probably 6 to 8 weeks ago, on my most expensive cutting that I bought, and that is the Bordisotte Negra Rimada. And this one here in the center was my original Bordisotte Negra Rimada. Now if I'm going to pull this out of the soil now, because it's been so many months, yes, as confirmed, as we can now see, this cutting has totally rotted out through the center. There is no bark. This is 100% dead. $200 down the drain. After that failed, I thought I'd reach out again and try for a second time. Bordisotte Negra Rimada number 2, another $200 down the drain. Look, even though it looks like it might have a bit of green in the bottom, I just can tell that this is done. And look at this. So we have totally rotted kind of bark and cambium right down to the central wood. Done. Dead. Number 3, this one I've still got in the grow tent. I'm not going to pull it out, even though I know, I'm looking at it and I can just tell this is dead. I'm not going to pull it out of the soil. I'm going to put it back in the tent. I've got that optimism, I've got that hope. The dream is in my heart that this will still pull through, even though I just looking at it, I can tell this is totally cooked. Bordisotte Negra Rimada number 3. This is $600 down the drain, these 3 cuttings. And since then, in the last week, I've had one final shot. So I've got one more cutting. I've just had it in. It's been in the ground now for 2 days. These were cuttings that were sent in dormant state originally. This first one, actually, if you remember and you look through my videos, when I did my most expensive big cutting video, I did a follow-up and said, look, it's excellent, these buds are swelling, this fig is doing well, and then for whatever reason it cancelled, cultured on me. It's done, it no longer survived. The one that I've received most recently, and these are all from the same seller, does have some green buds on it. It has a couple of tiny leaves on it. Whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm sure we will find out in the future. I might jump into the tent after this and take a little bit of footage to overlay over what I'm saying now, so you can see the current Bordisotte Negra Rimada cutting that I have going. And this is it. This is the final shot that I'm giving this plant. I can't throw any more money at this plant. I really, really want it. It's at the very, very top of my wish list, my desires, my everything. It's the cutting that is my Achilles heel. It's the white whale. It's the one that I keep pursuing and keep failing at. So this is the last shot. We're going to give it a go. We're going to see if we can pull up that Bordisotte Negra Rimada, and if we can, it'll be a lovely, lovely next couple of weeks if that pops up. And so guys, I hope that's interesting for you guys in Australia. I want to note as well that your mileage may vary. You might be in America and maybe you found some of these figs exceptionally easy to root, or maybe you're in a different state of Australia and you found that Silvan Beauty is very easy to root and my results are slightly different to yours. That's just the way of the world. We're all going to have different results. Maybe the way that I raise my fig cuttings is suitable for some varieties and not the others. But I hope that those that are out there that are interested in these things find this interesting, and I will put this up very, very shortly. I'll kind of put those overlays on it, and if you guys have had any different experiences with your own rooting of cuttings and you think it'd be interesting, chuck it in the comments below. I like to respond to all the comments that come through, and until that point, I guess I'll just have to see you all in the next one. Catch you later.